Joining us now is Robert Shiller, chief economist at Macro Markets. Dr. Shiller is also a Yale economics professor, and he developed the now standard S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, one of the many reasons that we invite him to come on and talk with us about this. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me ask you, first of all, about what we're seeing here. In the headlines today, Fed members are saying maybe we could cut back on QE2. The economy is strong enough that it doesn't need that. And on the other hand, we're seeing these housing news, not only prices, but as we say, home sales and foreclosures, indicating what could only be further weakness for the economy. Where do you see us here?
I would be a little wary of cutting back on QE2 with mortgage rates up a little bit and home prices down, and the construction sector is a big part of the volatile part of the economy. We're not out of the woods yet, so I think they should consider renewing or expanding it.
But Professor Shiller, how does QE3 or 4 or 5 or whatever the heck we get specifically help the housing market? We've had a lot of folks come on and say QE isn't certainly helping in terms of job creation. How would it specifically help the housing market here?
Well, I think that we don't expect it as a cure-all. Obviously, it didn't cure the housing market so far. It just works in the right direction of keeping long-term rates low. I think we need a lot more things. We have to fix HAMP. We have to, my proposal has been, let's start thinking about long-term corrections to the mortgage institutions that we have. It's a difficult problem, and HAMP isn't, or QE2 or QE3 are not going to solve it.
It's interesting, the CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, says the problem of delinquent mortgages and falling home values is the most stubborn, entrenched, and damaging economic problem our country faces today. Do you see, though, the big banks jumping in to help out here in a serious way?
I can't speak for the big banks. I think it is a big problem. And, it's also a problem that is stronger for lower-income people and minority people. I think it's quite striking that the home ownership rate among blacks has fallen 5 percentage points, from 50% to 45%. So, it's not shared equally, and that's a concern. I think that we have to be concerned for all Americans, and that means to me that we have to do something to fix HAMP and get it going, or get some plan for these people.
Professor Shiller, where do you see the housing market going? I mean, are we headed for a double-dip recession when it comes to housing specifically, or are we there already?
Yeah, I would say, as an economist, I like to do inflation-corrected numbers. Our composite indexes are already in double-dip territory if you do inflation correction. That means they're down below the previous low in 2009 and going down still. I don't mean to be alarmist about this. They're not going down at a rapid clip, and they could turn up. But right now, it's not looking it's not looking good. It's looking at best kind of flat.
So what is the solution? I mean, you talk about HAMP here or help for people who are losing their homes. What if you sped up foreclosures? What if you brought all of that inventory onto the market and got rid of it at extremely low prices? Because cheaper housing would definitely turn around buyers, wouldn't it, get them out?
Well, that's an interesting idea. I guess some people are advocating that. I think of the human costs, the human tragedies that are involved with throwing people out of their houses. We're talking about, there's about 2.5 million households now are on the verge of foreclosure.
Professor Shiller, in hindsight, now that we've had some time to look at the financial crisis, would the government have been smarter bailing out, helping out troubled homeowners so that they didn't foreclose, so that we didn't have this glut of supply on the market, rather than bailing out the banks, bailing out AIG, bailing out Fannie, bailing out Freddie?
Well, I think the government had hoped all along. This goes back to the Bush administration with Hope Now and Hope for Homeowners, and they had plans. They just never got a good enough plan. And the Obama administration, HAMP, it wasn't enough. It wasn't designed right. So I think that it didn't. We had these workouts for homeowners, and some of them got them, and they default later anyway. And they only got one workout under HAMP. So it's just not. The problem is that it's a big crisis, and people have good ideas, and they turn out not to be so good. You have to redesign them and improve them.
Well, anyway, you look at those numbers in housing, they really are pretty troubling. Bob Shiller, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Okay, my pleasure.
All right.